Good morning. Now I can see. I'm Holly Ulbrich. I'm a member of the Worship Associate Team and currently have the honor of serving as board president of this congregation. And I would like to extend you all a warm welcome. You're welcome, whatever your beliefs, whatever your gender, sexual orientation, race, age, or political affiliation. Our Unitarian heritage calls us to affirm freedom, respect, reason, and acceptance. Our Universalist heritage invites us all to celebrate and experience the wealth of truth and wisdom in all the great religious traditions. We are here to worship, a word that means to hold up and affirm that which is of worth, which is our shared values and principles. We are pleased that you choose to spend this hour with us this morning, and we encourage you to stay after the service and visit in the social room, so that, especially since we have a number of visitors today. If you are interested in learning more about the congregation, please visit our website, www.uufc.org, and if you'd like to be put on the mailing list for our electronic newsletter, The Weekly Connection, just notify the office administrator. I have a few announcements. You may notice the seating arrangement's a little different this morning, kind of left over from the Labyrinth service a few weeks ago. Elaine, raise your hand, Elaine, our worship chair, would like to invite some of you back in the sanctuary after you've had a cup of coffee to maybe bring in some more chairs and rearrange the furniture, because it is that time of year when visitors come to check us out, discover us, and we expect to have a slightly fuller sanctuary, and we probably would also like to have a little bit more space between the pews than we have at present. So if any of you can help, many hands would make short work. The tech crew is always looking for volunteers for Sunday services, no experience needed. Stop by the activities table if you'd like to learn more. Habitat for Humanity is looking for team members. This is the Pickens County chapter of Habitat for Humanity, trying to assemble a team of regular volunteers. So you can let Gordon Crane know, or again, stop by the activity table. We also need hospitality volunteers, and we invite you to visit our book sale table, $1 a book, or $5 for 6 books, which is kind of a house cleaning, recycling, and just general service. The benevolence for July is Clemson Community Care, our local food bank and social service agency, supported by all of the congregations in the area and serving Clemson Central and Pendleton and 6 Mile. 25% of undesignated donations go to Clemson Community Care. We change it each month, or you can give to it online. There's an estate planning lunch and learn seminar on August 21st at noon in the social room, so you can look to sign up for that. We probably need a few more people to sign up for circle dinners. Jackie, have we made our quota yet? We need at least 3 more people to sign up. It's a great way to get to know other members of the fellowship. Kathy Crane is leading a hike and splash to Riley Moore Falls in Oconee County on July 21st. Where's Kathy sitting? Here, that's Kathy. Talk to her if you're interested. And finally, I want to introduce my friend in the pulpit here. Reverend Bob Renjilian serves the Unitarian Universalist of Transylvania County, North Carolina. And in case you're not familiar with North Carolina geography, Dracula doesn't live there, but that's the home of Brevard. Reverend Bob grew up in Newtown, Connecticut, my home state, as a UU who loved walking in the woods and pretending to be a transcendentalist. He explored spirituality with the Quakers at Earlham College and then studied for the UU ministry at Meadville Lombard Seminary. He is married to Christy, and they have 2 grown children. One of them graduated from Clemson University last year. So we welcome him to our pulpit. Our opening hymn is number 308, The Blessings of Earth and Sky.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you trying out a new hymn that a guest preacher comes in and says, let's do this one. Appreciate it. Our opening words are from a colleague, Reverend Dr. Rebecca Savage. Rejoice. Rejoice with full hearts, beloved people of blessing. Rejoice. May this time of worship celebrate what we know at our core. Blessings are real and ours to claim and radiate. Blessings are abundant and ours to revel in and pass along. Blessings are transformational and ours to be challenged by as we grow towards the faith that we know we can be. Rejoice. Now, for those of you at home and everyone here, and enter the spirit of worship, those at home, we encourage you to light a candle or a chalice as we light our community chalice, and join us as we recite the affirmation. We gather together in a spirit of love with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth with freedom, and to care for one another.
Good morning. It looks like our children are out enjoying the July weather on the program, so I will forge ahead. However, the technology is not cooperating this morning, so we're going to go old school. I have the book. And this is a book by Patricia Polacco. Some of you may know her work. She's written other books like Rodchenka's Eggs and The Keeping Quilt. She tells a lot of stories about her family ancestry, and her family were Jewish immigrants from Russia. This is a kind of a long story. I've tried to abridge it a little bit, but her books always have such wealth in them that it's difficult to take too much away without losing something important to the message. And since I am a firm believer, as many of you know, that we can all get something out of a picture book, we're going to do this. So this morning's story is The Blessing Cup. When my great-grandmother Anna was a little girl, long before she came to America, she lived in a small village with her mother, papa, and baby sister Magda in Russia. Life was hard, and it was made harder yet whenever the Tsar's soldiers came. "Why do they do this to us, Mama?" Anna cried to her mother. As her mother rocked Anna and Magda in her arms, she whispered, "I don't know, my child, I don't know." When it was safe, Anna's mother took them into the kitchen. She placed 2 candlesticks on the table. She climbed on the warming stove and pulled down something that was lovingly covered with an embroidered cloth. Underneath was a magnificent china tea set. It was a Friday, and the sun had set. Anna's mother lit the candles and whispered prayers that began the Sabbath. "Tell us again, Mama. Tell us about the tea set," Anna teased. "Well," her mother began, "it was many years ago, just after your papa and I were married. A horse-drawn cart came to our village. Oh, and on it was the biggest wooden crate I had ever seen. Everyone gathered around to see what was in it. That was when I discovered that the crate was for me," she exclaimed with a grand gesture. "And when I unpacked it, everyone in the village stepped back. It took their breath away. It was this beautiful china tea set you see before you now." Next page. "But Mama, the note, tell us about the note again," Anna insisted. "Inside of this pot was a note from my Aunt Rebecca in Minsk. It read, 'Rachel, this is for you to celebrate your marriage. This tea set is magic. Anyone who drinks from it has a blessing from God. They will never know a day of hunger. Their lives will always have flavor. They will know love and joy, and they will never be poor.'"
Next page. It was true, thought Anna. God had blessed them. Before their evening meals, Mama would always say, so that our lives will always have flavor. Anna felt nothing but love and joy in her mother's house. And even though there was never enough money, Anna's papa would say to her, oh, there is rich and there is rich. We are richer than kings. And do you know why? Then he and Anna would chant together, because we have each other. Winter was coming to an end, but it was still cold, so Anna's family slept all together in the warming bed on top of the brick oven in the kitchen. Did you get lost? You're ahead of me now. As Anna drifted off to sleep, she watched the flickering light on the oven make patterns on the tea set. It was as if they were dancing just for her. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, Anna startled awake to terrible sounds. What's happening, Mama? Anna screamed. Her mother bundled Anna and Magda into the goat house where they hid while Anna's papa ran to the temple. But it was too late. The temple was in flames. The rabbi shook a paper in Anna's papa's face. The Tsar has ordered all Jews to leave Russia. All of us. So for the next days, everyone had to sell or give away their meager belongings. They were ordered to pack what they could drag in carts or carry and leave. Where will we go, Mama? Anna asked. Your papa has a cousin in a faraway land called America. Perhaps we can go there, her mother whispered. How far away is it? Anna asked. Across a vast sea. I don't want to leave, Anna cried softly. None of us do, her mother whispered. Why don't they want us here? Anna finally asked. Because we are different from them. They are afraid of what they don't understand, Anna's mother said, wrapping the beautiful tea set. It will bring God's blessings with us on our journey, she whispered. Anna's papa loaded their few belongings. He placed Anna and her sister in the cart, and he and their mother slowly pulled the cart away. Anna looked back at her village as long as she could see it. Only when it disappeared from her sight did she look ahead and wonder what their new life in America would be. That first night, they stayed in a cold barn with other refugees fleeing the pogroms. Anna's mother went to the well and drew water in the china teapot and said, May God's blessings be upon us. Then she broke bread and sprinkled salt upon it and whispered, Bread so that we shall never know hunger in our new life. Salt so that our lives will always have flavor. We shall always know love, and as long as we are together, we shall never be poor. Then she passed the cup to each of them. They drank the water, ate their salted bread and raisins, then hugged close and went to sleep. As the months passed, the journey was very hard. On some nights, they were welcome to sleep in barns. On other nights, they were chased away. Most nights, Anna's papa slept on the ground while his family slept in the cart. The open ground was damp, and he shivered with the cold. It was a hard fall, and as they approached yet another town, it was getting harder for Anna's papa to pull the cart. Then, on the outskirts of the town, he collapsed. Anna's mother ran to find a doctor. When the doctor arrived, he listened to Papa's chest. Your husband is very ill. He needs medicine, good food, rest, warmth, and care, he said. Anna's mother looked distressed. You can stay with me. I live quite alone. I'll make your husband well, the doctor said as he brought them into his home. Anna, Magda, and her mother looked around their doctor's fine house. Look at these rugs, Anna's mother said as they all leaned over and felt one of them. My late wife collected fine Persian rugs. There's a rich merchant just down the street who has offered me a fortune for that one, the doctor chirped with a broad smile. After he put Anna's papa to bed, he came into the kitchen. Can you cook, woman? That is the question, he boomed. It was the 19th century. Anna's mother smiled back and bowed. Such food I'll make for you, doctor, Anna's mother replied. Then welcome, my dears, the doctor said softly. Okay. Yevgeny Vladimirovich Pushkin was true to his word. I practiced. With his care, Anna's papa was soon recovering. The doctor saw to it that Anna and her sister were given proper food and fresh milk every day. It was he who noticed that Anna could not see so well and who fitted her with a pair of spectacles. He grew very fond of the two children, and the whole family called him Uncle Genya, which is a lot easier to say than the other one. Some months later, there was a pounding on the door. Anna's mother knew right away from the look on Uncle Genya's face what the visit was about. They have told you that you cannot house Jews, haven't they? She asked. Dr. Pushkin nodded yes. Then we shall have to leave, Anna's mother said sadly. My dear, your husband cannot survive pulling that cart and sleeping in the open air. He is gravely weakened from the pneumonia. He put on his coat and went out the front door. When Uncle Ganya came back, he pulled a packet of papers from his pocket. "I have gotten you all traveling papers so that you can cross borders safely. I also bought these tickets for the train that will take you to Verdansk. There I have arranged passage for all of you on a ship that will take you to America." Anna's papa fell to his knees and tears filled his eyes. "How could you possibly have done this? It had to cost you a small fortune," he cried. "Only that rug you were kneeling on. I sold it," Genya said with a broad smile. "But how can we ever repay you?" Anna's mother cried. That evening, Anna's mother unpacked the tea set and brewed rich black tea. It brings God's blessings, and our desire is that a blessing will forever be on you in this house. Then she taught Uncle Genya the ritual of the bread, salt, love, and being richer than a king. Very early the next morning, Dr. Pushkin drove them to the train himself in his carriage. When he arrived back home, he was astonished to see the exquisite tea set on the sideboard in his dining room. Next to it was a note. Anna's mother had written, "Always remember, dear friend, you are the bread that fed us. You are the salt that flavored our lives. You are the love and joy that held us together. Your golden, kind heart makes you rich indeed. You shall never be poor. I am leaving our precious tea set in your good keeping. We kept one cup so that we can still have its blessings among the four of us. It is all that we will need." And so it was. Anna and her family traveled across the sea to America. They all stood together at the rail and looked up at the Statue of Liberty. "Papa, are the Tsar's soldiers here too?" Anna asked as she took his hand. "No, my dearest, not here. They can't reach us here." They lived for a time in Manhattan on 10th Street. Anna's papa worked in a tailor's shop just down the block from their 3-room walk-up. Every night, cup and shared tea from it with her family. As they drank, they remembered the bread, salt, love, and richness of being together. They also vowed that they would never forget Uncle Genya. Eventually, Anna's mother and papa moved the family from New York to Union City, Michigan. On every family occasion and holiday, they drank from the cup and recited its blessings. Anna's parents lived out their days on that little farm, and shortly after her father's death, Anna received the cup from her mother. Anna shared the cup and its blessings with her husband and children all the rest of her life. Shortly before her death, she gave the cup to her daughter, Carly. My grandmother Carly, this is Patricia Polacco's grandmother, Carly, and her family named that cup the Blessing Cup and shared its blessings. In 1938, Carly gave the Blessing Cup to Patricia Polacco's mother, Mary, on her wedding day. And in 1962, she gave the cup to Patricia Polacco on her wedding day. And so it has been ever since. And there's a little footnote to the story that in, 1989, the earthquake in San Francisco, she was living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she had the cup in her china cabinet. And after the earthquake happened and she found out and made sure everybody in her family was safe, she came into her dining room and found that the china cabinet had fallen over and that everything was shattered. And she found the blessing cup, and it had broken neatly into 2 pieces. And she chose to see that as a blessing because she had been worried that she had 2 children and only 1 cup to give to them. So she's given each of her children a half of the cup. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We don't have any children to collect the gifts for Clemson Community Care. If I can get a couple of volunteers and invite the ushers to come forward. I can shout. Ah, there it is. That woke it up. Okay. One of the great joys of this congregation is to have visitors to come and worship among us. If you're a first-time visitor or a second-time visitor or a past visitor that's come back after a while, we invite you to stand and tell us who you are and anything else you want to say. Anyone?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Reese. This is my daughter Jamie.
Uh-huh.
Jamie moved from Texas recently, and this is looking for a new home. We tried the Greenville congregation and found about this one.
Oh, where do you live? Here, where do you live?
We live in Eastland.
Oh, yeah. Easley is always, you can go either way. Welcome. It's good to have you here.
Welcome.
Do you have any other visitors?
Hi, my name is Carol, and I live in Union. I've been married about 2.5 years, and the community COVID sort of made it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We got out, but I'm grateful to be here.
Welcome. Welcome. Any other visitors? I want to put in a stone of both joy and sorrow. Our minister has been away for 6 weeks. That's a sorrow. She got to go to Sweden with her family. That's a joy. She got to go to General Assembly. That's a joy. And she got COVID on the way home, which is a sorrow. And she's over it and coming back tomorrow. So that's a joy. So a whole mix of joys and sorrow. Meal this Wednesday, June 20th. Please see Janie Shipley. Janie, raise your hand after the service. Kathy Crane's joy is it was my delight to view UUFC's Liz Purcell's watercolor on display during the Blue Ridge Arts Center's current exhibit in Seneca. Great. Happy to hear that. Leslie Visage, sorrow, my brother is in the ICU with COVID. Please send healing thoughts his way. And I'm sorry, there's a stone for Leslie's brother, a stone for Our Daily Rest, and a stone for for Liz Purcell. Via Kathy Crane. And I'd also like to put in a stone for Joe Harris, who is facing surgery this week. We'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers, Joe. And finally, a stone for joys unspoken and sorrows not shared, both among us and in our larger community.
Following the various stones placed in the bowl, I invite you into this time of reflection and prayer and meditation. Spirit of love and life, we who are gathered here reach out to those who are at the bedside of those who are suffering from COVID-19. Our prayers go out to the medical personnel who have been on duty again and again to help, to hold, and to help people through. Our hearts go out to those who are looking forward to surgeries or recovering from surgeries. In the spirit of the book in which we just heard the story of refugees traveling, our prayers go out to those from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Ukraine, and this week with the fires in the Mediterranean, those who are displaced by natural causes. May all those who are away from their home remember that they are a part of the human community, no matter how displaced or despised the society may feel they are. Our hearts leap in joy for those words of joy that we hear of new births, new jobs, new graduations, new, whatever may be new. For many of us, that is the unlocking of the sorrows of our time to recognize the joys and sharing those in community. Let us hold as well, in the silence, the prayers of our hearts, the thoughts of our minds, and reflect on these for a moment. In the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind, we say, Amen. Blessed be. Minister, poet, and activist who serves as the Minister of Worship and Outreach at the Beacon Unitarian Universalist congregation in Summit, New Jersey. Today, we share in a blessing for losers, risk takers, all failures, far and wide. Blessed are they who fall in the mud, who jump with gusto and rip the pants, who skin the elbows and bruise the ego. For they shall know the sweetness of risk. Blessed are they who make giant mistakes, whose intentions are good but impact has injured, who know the hot sense of regret and ask for mercy, for their hearts will know the gift of forgiveness. Blessed are they who have seen a D or an F or a C or any letter less than perfect, who are painfully familiar with the red pen and the labels as less than, for they know the wisdom in the imperfect. Blessed are they who try again, who dust off, who wash up, who extend the wish for peace, who return to sites of failure, who are dogged in their pursuit, for they will discover the secret to dreams. Blessed are they who refuse to listen to the naysayers, for their hearts will be houses for hope. Blessed are they who see beyond the surface of another, for they will be able to delight in the gift of compassion Blessed are they who stop running the race to help a fellow traveler, to pick up the fallen, those who stop for injured life, for they shall know the kindness of strangers. Blessed are they who wildly, boldly abandon winning, for they shall know the path of justice. Good morning to you all. Thanks for having me out here, and your minister had filled in for me when I was off a couple months ago, and so this is an asynchronous pulpit exchange. So I get to come now when I have the availability and she's off, and I like that. I like our movement. The last time I was here was, I believe, March 9th, 2020, and then you all shut down a week or two later. Yeah, that's the last time I was a guest preacher here. So it's good to be back. It's good to see people out and about and engaged in Unitarian Universalism. To those of you who are just visiting here, it's like me. I've only been here one other time before, but seems like a good place, so come on back. Yeah. I want to thank Corey, Joseph, Holly, Karen, everyone who has helped me feel welcome and ready to preach today. And that's a blessing, to understand that it takes so many people to make something like a Sunday morning work. And so for all of you who have made this Sunday morning work, thank you. Thank you for the blessing. You will know the generosity of others because you've done it yourself. This sermon is on seeking a blessing, on finding blessings, on retaining blessings, on reminding each other that we are, in fact, as Rachel Naomi Raymond says, we are all born to be a blessing. And so I bring to you this morning a broad sense in which I will wander around. That's why I'm not in the pulpit. You stay on track and you have one theme and you work it to the end. And I'm out here and I'm just kind of wandering around with this theme. This theme on blessing. The story of the blessing cup is something that many of our families have some such story. I have from my Armenian grandfather the story of coming over as the Turks were coming in and forcing out the Armenians. We know that there are those who speak from the various locations of how they all found their way to wherever they are. Maybe it was a job opportunity here. Something brought people to a place where they had never been before. We know as well, and I know this especially in Western North Carolina and what's left of the Eastern Band Cherokee, we know as well that this story of America also has people who were made to be refugees even in their own lands, who were given promises and then had those promises taken away. When we hear the stories and we hear the symbolism of what gets passed down, we remember how important it is that we have received a blessing from someone. Maybe it is like the good doctor on the way who says, "Here, I will help give you safe passage." Maybe it is someone who along the way said, "I will mentor you. I will help you practice. I will walk with you." To be with one another is a blessing. It's one of the worst punishments ever, and hotly debated, as to how long and how much it should be allowed, even in prisons, to be isolated, to be solitary. Our sense of justice reacts strongly to those who are forced away, locked up, penned up. Blessings for us are something that we may seek. There are stories throughout time, and I grew up in an atheistic, humanistic, Unitarian Universalist congregation. And so I heard religious stories, and I would hear, well, Ann Landers would be quoted from the pulpit. I would hear all sorts of wisdom from all over. And then I realized, you know what, there's this whole rich biblical stuff too with stories. And I'm going to share a biblical story with you. And what you don't know is how I share biblical stories is from that point of freedom, of having grown up not thinking there's only one way to interpret. Now, I understand that my ancestors, my great-great-grandmother's brothers, came from Armenia to California to preach to the heathens. That is the 49ers. They probably got the biblical stories better than I do, but I'm giving it a try. So here we go. So we know things in the Bible start in Genesis with Adam and Eve, the first family. Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel. I think we've improved a lot since the first family. We have, in that very first family, what? Of the 4 residents that are named, 1 killed another. We have a really hard time as human beings not killing each other, but we're doing better now. Yeah, I know, there's lots of war on TV, but we are doing better statistically than 1 out of 4 of us being an absolute murderer. Okay? I think we're improving. There's other stories from the Bible that talk about families and family dynamics. And I want to say that there is in every room the stories of those who remember the ways in which their childhood was not a place of love and abundance and blessing, in which there were shortages of all of those things, compassion included, in which violence may have been visited on the youngest. That carries a cost. That goes forward into life. It takes heroics and stamina to go on in life without the kind of grounding for the blessing that you need in life. In the Bible, there's a story of Esau and Jacob. Esau is born with Jacob. We'd say in our time now, they were twins. They were born as twins. Back then, in that society, there was a big deal of who is first. Who's the firstborn male, especially? Well, Esau was born, and Jacob was holding on to the ankle of Esau, as if trying to get ahead and catch up. And throughout life, Jacob was trying to strive to get what it would be to have a blessing, to be recognized, to have everything. And when it was time for their father to be old and starting to decline and say, I need to pass on a blessing, Father Isaac told Esau, I will give you the blessing, my son, if you will go and hunt fresh meat and cook up venison and serve it to me. Esau was good at this. Esau went out and did that. Jacob, however, decided to put on animal skins to feel rough and Harry, like his brother Esau, and go in and serve food to his father to get the blessing. And Dad, Isaac, says, well, you kind of sound like Jacob, but you feel like Esau, so I'll give you the blessing. And then Esau comes back with a lovely meal and says, here, Father, here's your lovely meal. Father says, oh, I am so sorry. I already gave away my blessing. I gave it to your brother, who I thought was you. Now, in what family is there only one blessing to give? I mean, what are we to learn from this story? Why is it Isaac had only one blessing to give? How could you only have one? And it was supposed to go to the firstborn male. It's not feminist. It's not what we understand of the capacity of love of all of us. It's like passing on blessings. Even in the story at the very end, when the cup breaks in two, the two pieces are given to children. Each child could get a piece. What is wrong with Isaac? There is an excuse. It's not talked about in concordances and Bible studies. Isaac was born to Abraham, right? If I get this right. Abraham, when Isaac was born, said, my firstborn male, I will sacrifice him. And it was only at the last minute God said, I don't need this sacrifice. Sacrifice the goat instead. To me, Isaac is doing pretty good to have any blessing whatsoever to pass on, having grown up in a family in which the dad said, oh no, the first thing I do, you're born? Great, I'm going to kill you. I don't know the rest of the family dynamic, but that's got to come from a place where if a person has only one blessing to give, it may not only be cultural, it may be from a sense of just barely having made it themselves. So what does Jacob do? Jacob realized he's kind of stolen his brother's blessing, so he hightails it out of there. And he goes and he finds work with a farmer, and he falls in love with the farmer's daughter and asks to marry the farmer's daughter. And the farmer says, if you work for me for 7 years, I'll give you my daughter in marriage. He works for 7 years, and the farmer says, here, marry my daughter. And under the veil is a different daughter. And Jacob says, no, that's not the daughter that we agreed on. Okay, well then work another 7 years and you can get the daughter you want. So Jacob is gone for a long period of time. And then he decides to send gifts home and say, hey brother, I'm returning, I'm coming home. You love me, right, brother? I stole your blessing, but you love me, right? So he's coming home. And on the way, there is a mysterious figure who stops him. And this mysterious figure wrestles with him. And in many of the interpretations, this is an angel. To wrestle with an angel is a big deal thing. And as Jacob's wrestling with this angel, the angel then wants to leave after the wrestling is done. And Jacob holds on. Just like with Esau and being born, Jacob holds on. And Jacob says, I'm not going to let you go. You have to give me a blessing. How hard have you sought a blessing? How many of you have gone back to parents, grandparents, somebody, or along the way tried to find somebody who's going to fill in for a blessing that you feel like you never got the blessing you needed? Time and again, I believe human beings are looking for some kind of affirmation. I belong here. I can be here. I have a place in life. I have a future here. Now, I was really lucky as a kid. The introduction that Holly read said that as a UU teenager, I'd wander the woods and pretend to be a transcendentalist. I'd wander those woods, and I laid down on a bed of moss one time, and I had a I couldn't explain it with the language I was given, but I will say it was a spiritual experience in which I felt like I was connected with life, the universe, and everything for a moment. And in that moment, I felt like the universe was made up of all these people. And way over here was this little star, and that represented me. And from that moment on, it didn't matter. Well, of course it mattered. I got bullied. I was always last picked in gym. I was, whatever. But I had the sense from that teen year onward that there is a place for me in this whole vast universe of us. I don't know what worked for you, or if it hasn't worked yet and you're still finding your way. Maybe you walked in here and you said, oh, finally, I am where I belong. But we strive really hard. So Jacob strived really hard. I want a blessing. You see, he realized he had stolen a blessing, and he wanted his own blessing. And the angel says, would you let go, please? It doesn't say that in the text, but this is a loose reading. Would you let go, please? This is my turn to announce the blessing of a new day. Now, I don't get the whole thing, but apparently angels get to take turns about saying, it's a new day. I have something from a Sanskrit prayer that's in our hymn book, and I think it fits. Listen to the exhortation of the dawn. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salutation of the dawn. So that Sanskrit reminds me of this moment, my interpretation of this angel saying, I get to say something as profound as that. Would you let go? And Jacob says, not until you give me a blessing. And so a blessing is given, and Jacob's name is changed to Israel. And there's a whole story that goes from that. He's given a new name. He's given his own blessing, a blessing meant for him, not one that was somebody else's that was stolen. Each one of us, I believe, deserves the blessing that is ours. It's right for us to demand our blessing in life and not to take it from others. This week I was listening in the rotation of various things I have on my devices that play through the car speakers. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech came up. Free at last, thank God we're free at last. And he says, America issued a promise with a check that bounced back saying insufficient funds. And the Bible talks about a jubilee every 50 years where the slaves are set free. And yet in America, for generations, there were those who told, you can't have property. You can't even keep your family. Or it'll be generations more before you get your blessing. Now, maybe this is a big jump for you. Bob was doing some old dusty reading of Bible to now America. The story was about somebody coming to America, and it's like, yay, the American dream, and everything's going to work out all right. But not everybody arrived. Everybody. In some ways, we could say someone's blessings were stolen. In that case, for those of us who receive blessings that weren't ours, how do we go about changing things? We talk in our UU principles about justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And I've think there's a lot about the compassion, the hugs, the family passing down of love in the story, or the ideas of the blessing beatitudes that I read from Robin Tanner as a reading. You know, blessed are those who are muddy, blessed are those who have reached out to those who are injured on the side, those who have given up winning. That's a huge thing, to give up winning. For equality, maybe? I grew up believing in equality. Unitarian Universalists were for equality. That was a big deal in the generation in which I grew up. But that's not what our principle says. It doesn't say equality, it says equity. And that's where Martin Luther King's words really hit home this time I heard it. Reaching back to religious language, the mountains will be laid low and the valleys will be raised up. That's taking away from some place and filling up in another. That's equity. It means that people are having stuff taken away from them, sense of privilege, may feel that it's unfair. But the equity is to say, no, we're smoothing down the mountains and raising up the valleys. Maybe God was a communist. I can say that in a UU congregation. Maybe, then, when I feel as if I'm losing out on something, I can look at it in relation to that quote, in the purpose of maybe it's a blessing for someone else. Maybe it wasn't mine to begin with. I don't know if all of this weaves together the way it does for me. That's why I said I was going to wander around out here. Wandering around from a biblical story in which society said, you're not first, you'll never be first, or there's only one blessing to hand out. We have a shortage of blessings. To jump to Martin Luther King Jr. and some of the most difficult passages of what he was saying. We like the freedom ring from Stone Mountain in Georgia. We like, we like those parts. But do we get the part about the mountains being brought down and the valleys being brought up? That's a social justice statement right there. And I would like for us to maybe bring forth a better place, the best of what we know forward, equity in a world that needs it. I think we can believe that each of us has some way to give a blessing to others, and maybe to give up some blessings that weren't ours to begin with and seek our own. Thanks for listening. Thanks for maybe living into this idea. I'm going to end this message with an aspiration. Hymn number 323, Break Not the Circle. Whatever you do, whether you feel you have a blessing with you or are still seeking it, may you realize that we are all a blessing to others. May you go about your life in a way that is indeed that promise, that hope, that need in society. And may you come back again, nourished by the blessings that return upon you to this space of love. Amen. Blessed be.